Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. This time we're supposed to write an equation of a line through each pair of points and in slope-intercept form. Again, we're going to put our final answer in y equals mx plus b format, in slope-intercept format. Okay, so what we have here, it looks like, is a pair of points. It's 2 points, right? So let's go back to our flow chart and see what we're supposed to do with that. So this time, we have 2 points given to us. So is our slope 0 or undefined? Aha! We need to go find out. So how would we find slope if we have 2 points? We would go do the slope formula, right? We would do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we know that these points are x1, y1, x2, and y2. So this would be 10 minus 0 over 0 minus 2. So that's 10 over 2, which would be a slope of 5. So back to our flow chart, our slope is not 0 or undefined. So back to the no, and we're back to using point slope format. Okay, so here we go. Point slope format is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we know that we're going to plug in for our slope the 5 that we just found, and then I'm going to use, it doesn't technically matter, but I'm going to use 2, 0 for my x1 and y1. If you wanted to use the 0, 10, it wouldn't matter. You'd end up with the same answer. So y minus 0 equals 5x minus 2. From there, we would distribute the 5. So y equals 5x minus 10. We are now in y equals mx plus b format, and so I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to make part B a you try, pause the video, and come back. Okay, so just like before, I started off trying to find my slope because just like before, I went to the flow chart. I had 2 points given to me, and it asked if my slope 0 or undefined. And when I went to find my slope, it was indeed negative 4 over 0. And we know if 0 is on the bottom of a fraction, that is what we call undefined. So let me go back to my flow chart and see what happens if it's undefined. Well, oops. If it's a yes and it's undefined, then that's my indication that my formula, instead of y equals mx plus b this time, y equals mx plus b doesn't work when your slope is undefined. Your equation then changes to x equals some number. So if we go back to our formula, we know it's now x equals blank. The question is, what should I put there in my blank? What should my x equal? Well, you might notice that both of your x coordinates were the same stinking number, and that's because this is a vertical line, x equals 4. So if it's x equals a number, you're equaling it to the x coordinate. If it's y equals a number, you're obviously equaling it to the y coordinate. And our indicator, maybe you noticed and didn't even have to do all this slope business, your indicator that we were going to have one of these kinds of equations is our x coordinates were the same number. If our y coordinates had been the same number, that would have been our indication that our equation of our line would have been y equals a number. Okay. All right, let's try another example. Example 4, write an equation of a line, again in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b format. For each line described, this time it passes through a point and is parallel to 4x minus 5y equals 8. So we're going to go back to that flow chart. So this time I'm given a point and a parallel equation. So is my slope 0 or undefined? Let's go find out. So the slope I have to work with, well, it's got to come from this equation somehow, because this point's not enough to find slope by itself. So if I could get this line in y equals mx plus b format, I could find his slope and I can move from there. So let's get y by itself. Let's solve for y. So negative 4x and 4x cancel, so we have negative 5y equals negative 4x plus 8. Divide both sides of the equation by negative 5 to get y by itself. And y equals negative 4/5 x plus 8 over negative 5. So, I'm sorry, negative 4 over negative 5, which means our slope is positive 4/5. So going back to our flow chart, is our slope 0 or undefined? No, it is not. And so use the point slope form again. Here we go. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We know that parallel means same slope. So if my line is parallel to this line, I want the same slope. So my slope is going to be 4/5. My x1 and y1 is going to be this point over here. So I'm going to have y minus negative 3 equals m times x minus 5. So that's y plus 3. We're going to distribute the 4/5 equals 4/5 x. This is 5 over 1, so 4 times negative 5 would be negative 20 over 5. So that's y plus 3 equals 4/5 x minus 20 over 5 would reduce to 4. And lastly, subtract 3 to get y by itself. So y equals 4/5 x minus 7 would be our final answer. That's all still part A, friends. Okay, so I'm going to let you do part B as a you try. So pause the video, give it a try, and come back and check. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to think of this. If it's parallel to x equals 3, then it's got undefined slope. So as you went through the flow chart, you said I have a point in a parallel equation. This time, yes, I have undefined slope, and so it's x equals a number for my equation. Or perhaps you just thought if this equation is x equals a number and mine is parallel to that, then it's going to also be x equals a number. Now to figure out what number, we said we would just equal it to the x coordinate. So x equals 7 is our answer. All right, one more you try. This time pay attention. We're doing the perpendicular, so we know we're looking for the opposite reciprocal slope. So again, pause the video, give it a try, come back, and we'll take a look. Okay, so my slope was -2, which meant my opposite reciprocal slope was 1/2. So that was the slope I wanted for the equation of my line. So my x1 and y1, here's y1, x1, plug those in. And then the only other thing that I thought might be tricky was adding the fractions. You might remember that you got to get a common denominator. So this would be 4 over 2 and -3 over 2 added together would be positive 1 over 2. So then my final answer is y equals 1/2 x plus 1/2. Again, we knew what to do for that because you could have followed the flow chart. You could have said you were given a point, a point in a perpendicular equation. Our slope was not 0 or undefined, and so we know, again, to use that good old point slope formula. Okay, so you have some homework at the end of this note packet. It's also posted on Haiku. You've got the rest of the period to work on your homework, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.